The Prime Minister's advisers may have been bracing for bad news, but Tuesday's judgment was worse than they might have expected. All 11 justices agreed constitutionally the suspension of Parliament was something they should get involved with. And then this.
The Court is bound to conclude, therefore, that the decision to advise Her Majesty to prorogue Parliament was unlawful because it had the effect of frustrating or preventing the ability of Parliament to carry out its constitutional functions without reasonable justification.
The court agreed that Johnson's decision effectively shut down Parliament's democratic function of scrutinising the government ahead of Brexit.
The effect on the fundamentals of our democracy was extreme. No justification for taking action with such an extreme effect has been put before the court.
It didn't end there. The judgment went on to say that the original suspension of Parliament was legally null and void, and MPs are free to reconvene here in Westminster as soon as they want. They will do so on Wednesday morning. And so the judiciary has spoken with devastating constitutional effect. It is now once more up to the politicians to take centre stage.
Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn was quick to exploit the government's humiliation at his party conference in Brighton.
And I invite Boris Johnson, in the historic words, to consider his position and become the shortest-serving Prime Minister there's ever been.
Johnson himself was in New York at the UN General Assembly when the news came through.
I have to say I strongly disagree with what the justices have found. I don't think that it's right, but we will go ahead and, of course, Parliament will come back. I do think there's a good case for getting on with the Queen's speech anyway, and we'll do that. But I think the most important thing is we get on and deliver Brexit on October the 31st. And there's clearly the claimants in this case are determined to try to frustrate that and to stop that.
Parliament will sit on Wednesday morning. Boris Johnson's first appearance before it will be uncomfortable, to say the least. Calls for his resignation will mount. He is a Prime Minister without a majority, and he's now been found to have acted unlawfully, all at a time when he is trying to negotiate a new Brexit deal. A vote of confidence in his government may finally be approaching. Simon McGregor-Wood, TRT World, London.
For more on this latest blow to Boris Johnson's Brexit plans, let's go to David Henig. He's the UK Director at the European Centre for International Political Economy in London. Welcome to the program, David. A landmark ruling from the UK Supreme Court, and it looks like Parliament will reconvene as early as Wednesday. How significant is this latest development in the whole Brexit saga?
It is significant in that it probably means the UK will not be leaving the EU on the 31st of October with no deal. It probably reduces the chance that we're leaving the EU at all at the end of October. So it really delays the process because it is going to be very difficult for Johnson to overrule Parliament to go forward with Brexit against their wishes.
Well, that's right, because the UK Parliament has passed a law that effectively makes it illegal for the UK to withdraw without a deal. It also compels the Prime Minister to ask for a delay in the event that a deal isn't reached. What's the likely scenario now going forward?
So we don't think that talks are proceeding very well with the European Union. There is a big difference of opinion between the UK and the EU in how to solve the Irish border problem, which has been going on for some months now. We think that it's most likely that there will be no agreement reached. The UK will have to ask for an extension and that will be given. And then the UK will proceed into a general election. We think that that will happen before there's a vote of no confidence. We don't think there'll be a vote of no confidence in the coming weeks. The first no deal for the end of October will be taken off the table. Then there will be a general election. Expect that in late November, I would guess, or early December.
Now, we know Boris Johnson infamously said recently that he would rather be dead in a ditch than ask for an extension to Brexit. Do you think he'll have no choice but to do so?
Well, he either has to find a deal, which means climbing down with the EU, which he's also said in pretty colourful language he's not going to do, or he's going to have to die in a ditch, or quite likely we wait to see whether, in fact, somebody else gets to ask for the extension in some way. There's some kind of manoeuvre to mean that he doesn't quite break that promise, or he says, well, I've had to break that because those nasty people in Parliament made me. Now give me a majority in a general election. And so, I think he can find ways around that without having to die in a ditch. I don't think we'll see him dying in a ditch anytime soon.
Okay, in delivering the ruling, the Supreme Court President Lady Hale said the effect on the fundamentals of democracy was extreme, which is quite a scathing assessment of Boris Johnson's actions, isn't it? There are now calls for him to resign, particularly from the opposition. But can he credibly deliver Brexit in the wake of this ruling?
At the moment, because we're so polarised in the UK between supporters of Remain and supporters of Leave, there doesn't seem to be a general groundswell of opinion to say that Johnson should resign, which would have to go across both Remain supporters and Leave supporters for that to gain traction. At the moment, I don't see Johnson's position being untenable. We wait to see whether, in some cases in these stories, you get further developments, you get further advice being leaked, and then his position could be in difficulty. But I think at the moment, it looks like he can get through this. It looks like he's not going to have to resign in the coming days. But we have to wait to see. We don't know what else might come out.
Okay, in the meantime, we know the markets, particularly in the UK, have been rattled by the uncertainty around Brexit. Are we any clearer then on perhaps giving more confidence to the corporate sector in the UK?
I think we have more confidence for the next 3 months, perhaps running up to the end of January. Sadly, that kind of long-term confidence that what's going to be the relationship between the UK and the EU for the next 5 years, I'm afraid that's as far away as ever. We still don't know that. It's still difficult to say, invest in the UK. We know what our trading relationships will be like in the future. We don't know that. And so, unfortunately, that kind of cloud on investment continues to hang over us. And it's difficult to see when that will be resolved.
Okay, let's see what happens in the next chapter of this saga. David Henig in London, thank you for your analysis.